So, the things I wanted to talk about were, first and foremost, Colin Kaepernick.
Are we recording yet?
I'm always recording.
Okay. I don't know what's going on with Kaepernick. Well, are we starting? Wait, is this for real though?
We could start. It's the power of editing. You know how it works, friend.
Well, so before we actually start recording, I was going to ask you, I've been thinking about this all day. Are there any unwritten rules in terms of our friendship or this podcast? Because, we saw the drama this week with the Padres, right? And
Gosh.
And so I was thinking, I thought, man, so Paul, what are some unwritten, now we've been friends a long time.
Yeah.
You're a lot older than I am. So it's a lot bigger. It's a lot bigger portion of my life than it is your life.
A lot.
But I want to know, what are some unwritten rules in our friendship, in our relationship?
Some unwritten rules. Okay. Unwritten rule number 1. You got to trust me a little more. That's an unwritten rule. Trust me.
Well, the first unwritten rule is you don't drink before 11 a.m. That's number 1.
True. That's true. That is a true story. I never drink before 11 a.m. with Reed.
You can't drink before 11 a.m.
And if I do, then I make a big scene about it on Facebook or whatever. I just go, "Hey, look who's drinking before 11 a.m." Can you do marijuana before 11 a.m.?
I'm not a big partaker of that, so I don't know. If the wake and bake, is that what they call it? The wake and bake?
Yeah. I don't do it often. I mean, I can count on, well, that's not true anymore. I mean, I've gotten edibles pretty heavily now, but anyway, so no drinking before 11 a.m.
No drinking before 11 a.m.
Gotta trust me more. There's got to be some more trust.
Gotta trust Paul more. Anything else? Any other unwritten rules before we get started?
The funny thing is, like, I played baseball at the collegiate level, and I got invited to spring training, and I played in high school. I played in travel ball. I did all of that stuff. You know how many times I heard this unwritten rule of not swinging the bat when you're up?
0
times. That was the first time I had ever heard of it.
Well, now we have a niece that plays in, T-ball, and I've certainly heard about that in T-ball where, once you score 6 runs or whatever,
it's a mercy rule.
Then we'll let the kids go. But I didn't know that they played that in the pros. I tweeted from my XFL Mark account that I can't wait for real sports to come back. And
wow.
That was talking about the XFL.
Well, it's interesting because someone else brought it up to me earlier. They said they were listening or they're reading Mike Cameron's book. And of course, Mike Cameron, a very famous Seattle Mariner, had a 4 home run game. And there was a 3-0 count. The Mariners were rolling. I think it was against, I can't remember who it was, but he was talking about his 4 home run game. Really phenomenal feat to hit 4 home runs in a game. There was a 3-0 pitch. The guy threw it right down Broadway. And Mike Cameron just didn't swing at it. According to Mike Cameron, he was like, I didn't want to pour it on. And that was, someone brought that up to me. I'm like, really? He said that in his autobiography? And I'm thinking that's now the second time I've heard about it, even though that came out before this whole Fernando Tatis thing. It was interesting, to say the least, because I'd never heard of that rule. I've played at almost every level. I've played at every level. I've played at every level. I mean, 2 innings in the pros, every level. So it wasn't even 2 innings. It was like an inning and a third because I got shelled in the Tommy John surgery. I didn't come back to my normal form. The point is, I had never heard of this rule, ever heard of this rule. And now it's a big deal. And I don't understand. And Twitter doesn't understand what's going on.
No.
And you don't either.
I don't. I famously don't watch sports except for the XFL. So,
well, you're probably going to watch the Seattle Kraken now.
I will watch the Kraken. Do you like my new dragon sign I got? It came in time this week. The tape is getting a little hot in the office.
Can you iron it with your OCD? I'm surprised you haven't ironed the flag and made it flat for yourself.
Thinking about that, but if it's messed up, then it's just messed up. Once I touch it, then it's got to be. It's got to be right.
Anyway,
So if we're getting ready for XFL talk, I did bring
the orange jacket,
my signature orange jacket from my boy Van. He was watching. He's a. Let me see if I can do this live on the air. He's a fan. Van called me. He said he liked the podcast.
That's good. I'm glad you liked the podcast.
So we got some stuff wrong, but that's that goes to figure for us.
You had a conversation with Van. He told you some things you had wrong. Can you share any of those things we had wrong?
No, he told us that he thought we had good production value. He enjoyed the fact that there wasn't too much music, and that they said it was good. My neighbor said it was good. He said that you came across as a good on-air producer, so I thought that was good. I said, well, that's his job, so it's good. But anyway, I'm going to take this off in a minute, but I'm going to show. I don't want to hit the mic, but
look at that. Yeah. So here's the story about this jacket. So we go out to DC, and Reed's like, "Don't worry about bringing a jacket. Van's got these jackets for us." Yeah. Okay. Guess who gets a jacket and guess who doesn't get a jacket? Guess who's freezing his ass off in DC and guess who's not?
Yeah, it was cold. Well, it was so funny too because, and this is a true story, that we were getting ready to go out and Van was running the Facebook group and then we were friends on Twitter and just randomly one night I'm working and he messages me and he goes, "Hey Reed, what's your jacket size?" And I said, why would you need to know my jacket size, Van? I just met you online. And he says, he knew we were going to DC because I'd been tweeting it up that we had got tickets to the opener. And I said, well, actually, I'm going to go with my buddy Paul. He lives in LA, but he's going. And so, because I think he thought I was taking Dorothy, and I said, I'm taking Paul. And he goes, so I got your size, I got my size. Yeah. And then we go to DC. And I had kind of forgotten about it because just whatever, we're running around crazy. And then a bunch of the podcasters were meeting at that Larry, I can't remember the name of the bar we went to. They had I'm drawing a blank now too. But I see the logo, but I can't make out the name. Yeah. Anyway. The XFL Chalk Talk, RIP was recording there. And then XFL News Hub was recording there. And we're walking up to the thing and I see Van there and then a couple other guys and the jackets. And he said, "Reed, I got your jacket for you." He had been carrying it all around DC. And then, but you did get that sick beanie that you had. We got a couple of beanies from it. But no, Van did call me and say that he has Dorothy's jacket because he promised my wife Dorothy one. And we would have gotten it at the next game that got canceled before, all COVID and all that. I think we would have had two jackets, but right now we got one and Van says we're ready for the next one. So that's the story behind the illustrious orange jacket.
Well, I mean, it's okay. I'm not terribly offended. I mean, at the same time, I was like, yeah, well, I'm still freezing. So great.
I would have been so cold in that game if I hadn't had that jacket. It was so cold.
It was pretty freezing.
We lucked out because it was sunny. When they talked about the XFL kicking off in February in DC, and I think people said, you know what DC is like in February, right? But yeah, it worked out.
It all did work out in the end. So
what's going on with Kaepernick?
So we were talking about this at work, actually. A friend of yours, a friend of yours, Walters. Was it Walters Sports Bar?
Walters. Remember, because then Walter with the WWE.
That's right. Okay,
Walters.
We discussed about Walters, and I see it now. Actually, I Google mapped it, so I'm cheating. Basically, I was like, "Where's Nationals Park? There it is." Okay, Walters Sports Bar. A mutual friend of ours. He said, "This would be perfect for Colin Kaepernick. Okay. This would be an ideal situation for Colin Kaepernick." No, listen. I know you're kind of shaking your head. But if the XFL were to bring Kaepernick in, pay him, and put him on a team, what would be the public response? What would be the public relations response to that? What do you think?
I don't think the XFL needs them. I mean, that was the whole thing last year. They were going to bring in him and like Antonio Brown or the other guy they were talking about bringing in. I mean, I don't think the XFL needs it. I don't think the XFL needs stars. out the gate. And I think especially now with The Rock and everybody, I don't think you need, I mean, I think that is the star now. That is what's going to get people talking about it. And like I said, by week 3, 4, 5, we had people that we were following. I just don't think it's worth whatever $500,000, $1 million you would pay him. Is that even enough? Can the league even support that? I don't think so. I don't think you can have that. I mean, do you think you can have that big of a discrepancy in the wages with one guy?
Well, what's his name? Landry Jones was making considerable amount more than everybody else in the XFL this last season.
Well, we also saw how that worked out.
I understand that, but you have a guy like Colin Kaepernick who is, let's be honest, he's better than Landry Jones. He would be worth the money. The only problem is you're looking to expand the sport, and Colin Kaepernick is a very polarizing figure. And I feel like there might be a situation where for every one fan you currently have right now, you could lose that fan, but you're going to gain some fans because they're going to be like, oh, Kaepernick's playing? This could be a situation where it's a gamble, but you're saying it's probably not worth the gamble.
I don't think so. I don't think people want to get involved in that. I think a lot of people, even, with the XFL, people, I listen to all the other podcasts, people that write in, they like not having all the baggage that the NFL has and all the, the drama and the politics. And I know there's a whole bunch, right and wrong. And, I don't want to, pick sides, but there's just a lot of stuff that takes away from the game. And that's what I like so much about watching the XFL is it's all on the game. It's on, the play in the field. It's on, the announcers and the coaches and listening to the play calling and seeing all that. I mean, that's what I liked about it. I mean, what do you think? Do you think he has a place?
I think anybody who, not just besides Kaepernick, I think anybody who is not going to find a place in the NFL this season has a place in the XFL. I think it's definitely an opportunity to grow it the right way. When you look back at what the USFL did, the USFL went out and got Steve Young to join their league. And they basically broke themselves paying Steve Young an exorbitant amount of money to come to the USFL, and then it went under, and that's what happened. That's basically, not to blame Steve Young completely, it was the owner's decision to pay that much money to have this guy come in. At the same time, if these players aren't going to be playing because of COVID, I think it's smart to bring in anyone, regardless. And I don't know what the contract situation is in terms of how much the guarantees are going to be for players when they go to the NFL. You're going to have some draft picks that are going to that need more money than what they're going to get on their downside guarantee as rookies. You're talking about 5th round picks, 6th round picks, 7th round picks. For example, Tom Brady was a 7th round pick. You're going to have players like that who are going to need that money because they're not going to get the guarantees from the NFL, especially if COVID shuts it down this season. So you're going to get some good talent. You're going to get some amazing talent coming to the XFL. And who knows if the ticket sales support it and if they relocate some teams. Our friend disagreed that they should relocate LA. I felt like there's too much saturation. While I am a supporter of the Wildcats, I do feel like there's too much saturation in this market. I think that it would be better suited for San Diego because they like the thing that works about St. Louis is the Battlehawks because they lost the Rams. The Battlehawks came in and that city really gravitated towards that team. It was like, we have a pro football team. Granted, it's XFL, but it's pro. I think there's a place for everybody that can't find a place in the NFL.
It's too bad that your favorite XFL logo, the LA Wildcats logo, they really pigeonholed themselves in with that logo, right?
They can always.
It's the LA.
I was not a fan of that logo from the get-go. And then the claw, that looked like something someone, I'm sorry, but it did. It looked like something someone designed in basic graphic design. It did. It's a terrible logo. The claw, it's terrible.
I think you called it something off of MS Paint. I think you said that you could have made
exactly what I said. And you've seen the meme where the frog says, it's like the frog and there's like a cloud. It says graphic design is my passion. That's exactly what that is.
I mean, the thing with the salaries, That's the stuff that just kills me with all these sports. And, I know you're the big baseball guy, and there's, the one guy's holiday that every year he gets $1 million or whatever. Cause Larry,
Bobby a day.
and, it just kills me that you get all these guys that sit around, they complain like the baseball thing, they're getting paid all this money, wah, don't hit the home run or whatever. I just want to see people play. And so that would be my fear with bringing in Kaepernick, or, they already had the drama with, the quarterbacks were getting like 250,000. And then you had other like BJ Daniels, he was also quarterback, and Brandon Silvers. And when he sucked, and I still have my Brandon Silvers signed t-shirt, but, but Silver sucked. Right. And so then you have this question, well, if he's getting paid 250,000, BJ's not, what do you do with that? Even that kind of stuff, there was all this drama, let alone, you bring in someone like Kaepernick that's getting, $1 million or whatever. I don't know if they're going to make that big of a discrepancy between all the players.
Well, I mean, let's be honest, like, quarterback controversies and, quarterback competitions happen at every single level. Look at Jacksonville, for example. Jacksonville brings in Nick Foles. Let's take a look at Nick Foles' contract with Jacksonville. Nick Foles is now with the Bears, so this is a moot point. Let's take not Nick Folk. I'm sorry, Nick Foles. Both Nick Folk and Nick Foles very happily announcing, very happy to be Arizona alumni. I don't know. Anyway,
alumni.
Yeah, alumni. Oh. Nick Folk is a kicker, of course, and Nick Foles is the backup quarterback from the Eagles. Led the Eagles to a Super Bowl, and then they were still like, Carson Wentz is our franchise quarterback, which I thought was colossally stupid for the Eagles to do. So Foles went down to Jacksonville, signed a 4-year, $88 million deal. Much like you're talking about Brandon Silvers having more pay, Nick Foles signed the 4-year, $88 million deal, and halfway through the season, he was benched for Gardner Minshew, who is making 4 years, $2.7 million. So that argument of Brandon Silvers making more money and not being the starter, there's a history for that in the NFL, where you're talking about Gardner Minshew and Nick Foles down in Jacksonville.
Well, yeah, I mean, and obviously, across. Like I said, I would just prefer to see the play on the field than having some drama with them bringing in, someone that's grossly overpaid.
Do you think that, like, you want to avoid drama because of XFL 1.0, where Jesse Ventura was beefing with the coach?
I'm sad to say my history of XFL 1.0, I remember watching like the first game and not understanding what was going on, and then I kind of trailed off.
Well, I mean, LA is still the defending champions, right?
They are. I would pick up, if we weren't in COVID and with funds being so tight, I would pick up a LA 1.0 jersey just to be able to rock that around. But I have enough. I have 4 Dragons jerseys, so I don't know if I could jump.
You have 4?
Well, so I have 2 authentic. I have a replica, and then my video is still all screwed up. It's not printed right. It's printed off-centered. Right. And I tried to return it, and this was right when they were like closing down. And so then they refunded me, the XFL refunded me, and then sent me another jersey. And I thought, wow, this is going to be sweet. I'm going to get my money back. And then like they messed up, the channels got messed up. And then it came, and it's even more off-centered than the one that was before it. But when it's on the wall, you can't really tell. But you can see it's like it's not centered.
Oh, you can see where the G should be right at that V point, and it's not.
It's not. It's like crooked if you were to wear it. But on the wall, it doesn't look too bad. So if there's one message you have for The Rock, it's please make sure the merchandise looks good. we need some good merch. I hope that we can put the XFL to shame when we get our merch going here coming up soon. You know how I feel about good merch.
I know this guy, like, he will go to indie shows and he'll like look through the merch, and if it's really good merch, We have like Keith Lee shirts from back when he was on the Independents, Walter shirts from back when he was on the Independents. So if it's good merch, Reed will buy it. And apparently, if it's bad merch, like off-center Dragons words in the middle of Jersey, Reed will still buy it. Apparently, I'll be happy about it.
Yeah, I'll try to return it, and then be worse off than I was the first time. I should have just kept it and kept my mouth shut.
So my question now, like moving forward, sale goes through today. Officially, all the hurdles have been cleared. Have you heard of any further hurdles that needed to be cleared before this went through? Have you read up on that?
I think it was just dotting the T's and crossing the I's, or I messed that up, but just kind of making sure all the stuff was going ahead. I mean, it's been pretty quiet on that front. I mean, obviously we'll talk about the CFL at some point during the show today, I assume, and the foregoing of all the players' contracts for the year. That was kind of the major news that came out. And then earlier this week with Oliver Luck, and we'll touch on Oliver Luck too. But in terms of the actual sale, as far as I know, it was just kind of the waiting period to process everything and get it going. So if I'm wrong, I'm sure Van will let me know if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. And you're still, do you want to get into the details of what we got wrong there? Or is that like classified privileged information between you and Van?
I'll keep that close to the chest for right now.
Okay. Right now that's fine. Other players that have been picked up, I guess, through this process, Jordan Tammu. I don't know if that's the right way. Tammu. Yeah, that's the right way to play it. The right way to pronounce it, I should say. He is gone. He is now with Kansas City. Does he come back though if the XFL is reboot? And what is the contract status on these players that have left the XFL, signed with NFL teams, and now might come back to the XFL? Are they still? Is Jordan going to still be on St. Louis, or can he decide to go somewhere else?
I mean, I think it's all up in the air right now. I think even the coaches aren't really locked down, and who even knows? I mean, I think that's still. Yeah, a lot of the coaches, if you've noticed, some of the coaches that are really trying to get, maybe the bubble play in their cities, like Houston and St. Louis, have been a little more vocal. No one here in Seattle has really been talking right now. I've even heard a lot down in LA. So it's interesting that way. But across the board, who knows where anyone's going to go? I mean, you're playing backup to Pat Mahomes. I don't know how much play you're going to get, right?
And Chad Henne is the second on the depth charts. Chad Henne is number 2. So you'd have to basically see a situation where, and God forbid, because I think Patrick Mahomes is great for the NFL, you'd have to see a situation where those two guys go down first. Then you see Jordan hit the field. So maybe quite possibly, depending on how much progression Jordan has, you might see him back in the XFL, or you might see him as a second string quarterback for a different team that needs a second string quarterback. I don't know what the Patriots are doing. They looked like they've got Cam Newton as their starter. Who knows? Bill Belichick floated the idea the other day of having a platoon situation, which is out of the ordinary for him. So there's different places for these players to land. And, again, if the NFL doesn't play this year, maybe the XFL does. Who knows?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, more about that, what people are getting paid like at third string or whatever. But is it one of those like WWE versus working on the indies? If you're Jordan Tammu, do you rather play a year or two? I mean, you have to argue the visibility of the XFL. I mean, I would obviously, argue the visibility and the worth of playing on that. But do you play for less and get some visibility and get some reps and stuff, or do you sit on the bench, like an Adam Morrison and take the, I had to throw my digs at Adam Morrison.
Your boy Adam Morrison.
My boy Adam Morrison. But do you do that and just ride the bench to a championship? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you do.
There's really two schools of thought. Like you can go to the XFL, improve your stock and really draw bigger money if you went back to the NFL. But I think ultimately the goal is always going to be the NFL. That's the main league. And I don't foresee where before in XFL 1.0, it seemed like Vince wanted to overtake the NFL. He wanted to be the football organization. And this one, he went in a little bit smarter. And wanted to complement the NFL, wanted to be almost like a farm system in a way, like how the Major League Baseball teams have farm systems. Like, for example, the Dodgers AAA team right before you get up to LA is Oklahoma City. Their AA team is Tulsa. He wanted to kind of, be that kind of complement to the NFL. So maybe it's not a situation where you look at it as a competition. If you're not happy with your position in NFL and you think you can do better in the NFL, maybe you go down to the XFL, improve your stock, go back to the NFL, and you can go from, being a third string quarterback to maybe being a backup. And who knows? Tom Brady was a backup once. You saw what happened there.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to think that, you have so much good talent there, with like PJ Walker and Tammu and a lot of these guys that went up and just, you don't want to see that wasted. You don't want to see them wasted. Obviously, you want them to be happy and healthy, but us football fans, you want to see the good play on the field, especially if it can be in the XFL.
Yep. And speaking of leagues shutting down, the Canadian Football League announced they were shuttering their doors for the 2020 season due to COVID. That means about 400 players are looking for work. Last year you had SJ Green, Armonte Edwards, Derek Dennis. Those three guys were made the jump from the CFL to the XFL for this last season. And maybe that's how they replenish their ranks. But now it asks the question, if all these players are available, you could potentially expand, add a couple more teams. Is that a possibility?
No.
You still want the 8 and then the ninth practice squad team.
I think this year, it's going to be so tough. I mean, they're already talking, if we could get it going in the fall. It's not going to happen in the fall. If they can get it going in February, they got the 8 teams. There's just no time this year. There's no time. I agree. There's going to be a ton of talent. And, the best thing about the CFL is, unlike these NFL guys that are getting let go or not making the squads, I mean, those guys don't get paid hardly anything either. And so you can go, what are they getting, like $5,000 a game or something? Some of these guys, I mean, it's nothing. And so I definitely see that. And then, the one thing too, then is what our Canadian fans going to be watching for football. Maybe they get a hankering for the XFL as well. Something to think about.
That's a potential windfall, I would say, is if the Canadian fans don't have football and there's actual, maybe the XFL adopts some of those Canadian rules. Granted, not their turf, but their rules. It's a widely known thing that the CFL turf does shorten players' lifespans. I mean, Warren Moon talked about it. He said the CFL turf was horrendous. I mean, Doug Flutie talked about it. This stuff, I mean, Rocket Ismail, a former Heisman winner, had his career cut drastically short. He played in Toronto and then played a little bit in the NFL, but his career was short because of the field conditions for the CFL. Maybe that's a way to incorporate some of those CFL rules into the XFL game to broaden and think outside, the U.S. And maybe, just maybe, what if the XFL took the bubble up north?
Could be. Maybe. Like I said, I think this year, I think they got to lock it down. But yeah, I mean, you definitely could. Maybe we could get some Canadian listeners. We could be an international podcast.
I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. Chad Johnson. Can barely hear you.
You can't hear me?
Oh, now we can. Yeah, it's perfect. How's it going, sir?
I'm sitting here getting a little maintenance. I'm getting my feet and nails done right now. Look at my hands.
Awesome.
Getting me a little pampering session before my plane takes off at 7.
Where you flying?
I'm going to Atlanta and handle some business. Take care of some business real quick.
Cool. We're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah. That's dope, man. That's dope. How y'all holding up during this damn pandemic?
Oh man, it's been kind of crazy. I've been working from home for the first few months, but I'm a photojournalist, so I've been gone. I'm back out in the field now, covering various news stories. And
right,
yeah.
How you doing? How you holding up, Reed?
I'm a wedding.
I love it. I was quarantined before quarantine was a thing, so this transition has been pretty easy for me.
Well, Chad, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about The Rock buying the XFL, man?
I mean, it's dope. It's dope. I mean, it's dope that someone of his status, for one, has been consistent and a successful businessman, has put a stake in something that he once loved before he switched over to acting. So I'm sure it will probably, come to fruition of it having a success rate, which it hasn't had, of yet, for obvious reasons. But I think with him being a part of it and seeking the talent and running things from his point of view, I think it's going to be successful.
Do you think that's attributed to the fact that Vince McMahon is not really someone who probably played football at a level The Rock did?
I mean, well, Vince McMahon is a businessman, as successful as that. And most of the people that do own football teams at times and are owners, did they all play before? Not really. They're just great at business. And sometimes it takes more than just being a great business mind to make something succeed. And having a football background, maybe The Rock will be able to make the XFL something consistent that gives other players that don't have the opportunity to play at the highest level, gives them a platform to shine.
With all the pandemic talk, are you concerned that we don't get an NFL season?
Oh no, we're going to get an NFL season. There's too much money at stake. Now that's going to happen. Listen,
how would they make that?
It's like it's happening now. It's going to happen. Trust me. It's going to happen. And the players are going to have to abide by the guidelines. I'm sure we don't know what's going on the inside, at these facilities. And once they go home, I'm sure coaches are asking them to minimize, their contact with the public as much as they can, stand around family and friends. And I mean, I'm sure you can sacrifice that for a few months, to get the football season popping.
So if I guess if let's just play devil's advocate here. Let's just say that things go by the wayside. Maybe we get a shortened season. Do you see any of these football players, maybe the lower round draft picks, possibly looking at the XFL? I mean, I know the Canadian Football League also shut down operations for 2020. Maybe these lower draft picks.
CFL shut down?
Yeah, for the entire 2020 season.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
They released them all from their contracts too. Yeah, for the year.
Yeah, CFL's done for this year.
Yeah, as of yesterday, I think.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I didn't even know that. I mean, you guys, you just broke that news to me. That's crazy. That's great. Okay, so I mean, yes, I mean it gives them an opportunity to play. It gives them an opportunity to play. But if the NFL would shut down and the XFL would be able to play, that I don't think that would happen. I mean, if an entity like the NFL shuts down with all the resources and knowledge and science they have at hand, if they can't play, then the XFL definitely not going to be able to play.
To that point, though, I mean, do you think that because we only have 8 teams in the XFL, right?
Right.
And 8 teams would definitely bode well for like a bubble situation that we're seeing in the NBA. And
I mean, NFL can do the same thing if they wanted to. If they wanted to, and if need be, it can happen. But the fact that they didn't go that route, and even though it's short, we knew about this long before, way back in March. We knew it was going to be a pandemic. If they want to do something, a bubble format for all 32 teams, it can happen. They can happen. They have the money, they have the resources, the revenue to do anything that's possible. And the fact that they haven't lets you know there's going to be a season because there's too much money at stake.
Good point. Very good point. I know you tried out for the XFL last season.
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't go. No, I was just messing around.
Oh, you were just messing around.
Yeah, I mean, too many people are looking for opportunities, and that's me coming in and taking an opportunity from someone else that actually deserves it. I had my time, and the fact that I can kick 60 and 65, 70 yards, it was a cool thought. But I just like, you know what? No, I don't want to take the attention away from someone else that would actually deserve and needs a job.
Did you watch any of the games last year? If so, what did you think?
Yeah. I watched a few.
Did you follow anybody specifically, team wise?
No.
You're just a fan.
There's no Miami team, so I just watched when it was on. I watched.
Did you like the extra access that you guys had to the play calling and stuff? Did you think that resonated?
Yeah, it was cool. I like it. They should do that in the NFL.
Well, to that point,
they should do that in the NFL. It was really dope. It was dope to see.
And to that point, the XFL 1.0, the original incarnation, introduced that sky cam thing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of, football teams pick that up afterwards. So that's one of the things you'd like to definitely see the NFL pick up on.
Yeah, the Sky Cam was cool. I didn't like it that much, but something that I would like for them to implement is a separate camera for wide receiver and DB matchups.
Ooh.
You know, simply because all you see is the replay when the play is made. Like, I want to be able to lock in on the receiver and the DB and watch everything from the beginning, how he got open, how he caught it, and not have to rely on the replay. Seeing it in real time, to me, would be something dope, and giving the viewer at home an option to watch from a different perspective, except just, the TV copy.
So you feel good? You feel good for the NFL? Do you feel good for the XFL launching in February like they're planning? Relaunching?
I mean, by that time, I think the higher ups should have gotten a grasp on what we need to do, as far as the pandemic is concerned. So as time goes on, I think it's gonna rock. It's gonna rock out.
Will you be watching in February if they go ahead?
Of course. Any sports going on right now during these times, I'm watching.
That's awesome. That's good to hear.
Yeah, man.
So what you basically said, you alluded to, you don't want to take any opportunities away from anybody else. What if they call? What if someone calls?
It would still be the same thing.
Goals?
It'd be the same thing.
You'd still say no.
Yeah, of course.
Not tempting at all. What besides has there been anything else that has weighed into your decision to stay away from the game besides not taking away opportunities from people, or you just
no? That's enough.
Wow.
Yeah, that's enough. Taking food off someone else's plate that actually needs it more than I do is enough. To sit my ass down.
I love it. I love the humility. I love it. I love all of it.
Yeah.
What are your plans going forward for your post NFL, post football career? Then what are you doing now?
A little bit of everything. Stuff with NFL films, stuff with HBO, Bleacher Report, ESPN, and it's continuously coming in. But I don't want to be in a position of where I'm in a structured environment and just stuck and having to be PC. I'm still allowed to be Chad and be myself and enjoy different ways and different avenues to obviously just make money. Nothing too controlling to where I have to be like, it's like being in the NFL again in a controlled environment. Like, no, I'm having fun, enjoying it, playing FIFA, smoking cigars, eating McDonald's.
Still eating McDonald's.
Nothing changed. Yeah, nothing changed.
I keep telling people that. I'm like, how many calories are in a McDonald's cheeseburger? Chad Johnson talks about it a lot, how it's one of the lowest calorie foods you can actually eat, surprisingly. How did you discover that? I need to know how you discovered this.
I didn't discover it. It discovered me. Yeah. As a kid, man, you grow up, man. There's some things that just never change, and that was one of them that I never did. Just never did.
Awesome. All right, Chad. Well, it's been about 10 minutes. We appreciate your time. We're going to let you go.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right, take it easy.
You guys be safe too, man.
You
guys
too.
Be safe out there. I love you guys.
All right, take it easy, Chad. Vegas odd makers are keen. They're counting on the XFL to come back. The current odds are yes, plus 300, no, negative 500. I'm not too good with odds that aren't point spreads. I don't know about the plus 300. I don't know I'm sorry. All I know is like we took one year in Vegas, you, me, Mike, we took Cleveland to win the series. We were at the wrestling event. We were at Money in the Bank. We got notification that Cleveland did come back 3-1 deficit. We won some money that night. I know about point spreads. I don't know how the plus 300 works or the negative 500 works. So
is this too complicated? Is this too complicated in the article? I didn't even really read through it.
It kind of is. But I think what the basic point is like the odds are against Vegas is saying the odds are against the XFL playing in 2021. Both you and I don't think that's the case, especially with COVID going forward. I would honestly take yes plus 300. I would honestly take the yes plus 300 in Vegas. I feel like that's a better bet. I feel like you're going to make more money with a yes plus 300. I think the points are on your favor, on your side. But if it doesn't come back in 2021, Vegas does like the idea of it coming back in 2022, where you would basically the money you would bet on a 2022 return in Vegas cuts in half. If you just say yes in 2020, no in 2021, yes in 2022, your odds get cut in half. And meanwhile, your odds also get cut in half for no in 2022. But then, of course, the next year after that is 2023, and the odds go back up that there will not be an XFL season in 2023. And I think that if they don't get it back before 2022,
it ain't coming.
it's not coming back. It's not coming back. But I don't see why that wouldn't be the case if they spent $15 million on this thing. Why they wouldn't bring it back at least in 2021? Would you take the odds for 2021 then?
Well, yeah, I mean, Vegas has got to be so thirsty for, any sort of action right now. I mean, if they were doing like marble racing and the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, you figure they got to be, a football league backed by The Rock has got to be The Rock and others, Danny, Redbrick,
Right.
You got to feel like that's got a better shot of going in 2021 or 2022 for sure. I mean, I think it's February 2021. I think if they don't hit it, it's done. I think if they rush it, they shouldn't. I think that is the target goal. And I just think all the pieces are in place, the college stuff. I mean, I was even reading articles this week where they were talking, I know we talked last week about spring ball. People are so down on that even happening. How would that even work? So, I mean, I don't know if the NFL does it. I mean, I don't know. We were talking about all these XFL guys being signed and stuff. I mean, who knows if it even goes through? I think I would take whatever odds on February 2021. I feel really, really confident about that, especially with everything getting locked up with the sale now.
It's interesting you talk about the college game because, of course, I think it's the Pac-12 and the Big Ten have announced they are not playing in fall. They're shooting for the spring, but the SEC, the ACC, and Big 12 said they're all going to go conference only starting to September 26th. And Lane Kiffin says those conferences where players exist under that rule where they're not coming back for spring ball, those players should be allowed to transfer without penalty. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm not. So I went to Gonzaga University. We didn't have a football team. My knowledge of college football is not the greatest. I mean, you tell me, what's the point of doing an interconference, whatchamacallit, with, I mean, I know that all I know with college ball is there's a lot of bowls. There's the Fiesta Bowl, there's the Orange Bowl, there's the Apple Cup. But I mean, what's the point of doing that if it's only going to be 10 teams in conference? Is there a point? Then just, you got to put butts in seats and have TV stuff to watch?
I don't think there is a point because you're not going to have bowls. You will not have a bowl season. If the Big Ten and the Pac-12, the two teams that are always slated to play in the Rose Bowl, pending any college football playoff overriding factors, the Big Ten champion and Pac-12 champion for years have been the representatives to go to the Rose Bowl. And that's, these bowl games are massive, massive cash cows for the colleges. They help support so many other different sports. And it's just a domino effect where I don't see a situation where bowls are going to occur with just SEC, Big 12, and ACC teams. It's just not going to be a situation. And you also have to take in the demographics to college football bowls. You have these bowls in California that are going to be like, well, we're waiting for science to make sure it's clear before we allow these big events. So you're not going to have a Rose Bowl if COVID's still out of control. You're not going to have the bowl that happens in San Francisco at, I think it's AT&T Park. Maybe it's called something different now. I don't really pay much attention to the San Francisco Giants. I'm not a big fan of the Giants. So you have these bowls, depending on their locations, like Texas and Florida, what's blowing up with COVID cases still. These demographics on where these bowls take place, what are you playing for if you go through a college football season in one of these conferences?
Now, some might ask, devil's advocate, what is the XFL playing for? And what is the difference?
Well, they're playing for the love of football.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, I totally agree with you. I just making a joke, but I mean, I just don't know what the point is. I mean, even this stuff, and I'm not following the NBA, but we did like the half a season thing, and then it's like the playoffs now. But I mean, is that really a thing? I mean, there's an asterisk on all of that, right? I mean, isn't there NHL? I mean, isn't there asterisks on all these?
I don't think so. I mean, I think there's more of an asterisk on 2017's World Series title than there is on whoever wins the World Series this year.
You think so?
I said it.
No, that's I pick up that shade you're throwing.
Yeah, I'm throwing shade at Houston. We have a problem, and I know you're tired of hearing that, but it's not going to go away. It's not going to go away.
But I'm serious, right? You do the XFL thing, right? 8, 10 weeks, 12 weeks. That's a thing, right? It's a thing that's always been. That's what it was always going to be. It's a thing. I just don't know. Like I said, with this herky-jerky NBA stuff, and it was on and off, I think there's got to be question marks on all these different things. And so when it goes to college ball, I got to think it's the same thing. Okay, you played against, that's like Gonzaga, right? In basketball, we always killed in the West Coast, and then we'd go to the March Madness and get killed every time because we had like the worst division in the world, right? We're playing against, I can't even remember all the stupid teams.
St. Mary's and BYU and Pepperdine, I think, is in your conference.
But,
Pepperdine's somewhere else. But yeah, I get your point.
And then we'd roll in and just get smoked every year. And it's, because you got to play. That's the point, right? Is to play and then to come together. So,
yeah. And, okay. Well, Oliver Luck. What have you heard on the latest on Oliver Luck?
I'm really not happy about this one, Paul. I heard that he's not coming back. That's what they say. They say both sides are done. It really goes against what I said last week. I mean, I really did think that, with Vince out of the picture, my only hope is, and obviously this is all this is why we're called the Markcast, but the Mark in me is saying that, once this, the lawsuit with Vince and everything, goes through, that he's just trying to get through that and then he'll come back. But a lot of sources are saying XFL News Hub and a lot of other sites are reporting that just both sides are just kind of done with it, which makes a lot of sense. If you're someone of his stature and you just don't really need the headaches. I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, it would be good for The Rock to try to mend those fences with Oliver Luck. I think the ultimate reason why Oliver Luck might not come back is because of the lawsuit. If he does come back and gain employment with the XFL, a judge might go, well, see, you're back in the XFL, so you really don't need to sue Vince over this money. And I think Oliver Luck's a smart, savvy dude. He wants to get paid for basically taking this thing on his back and building it into the monster it was, because it was a monster, but it was a slow growing monster, much like this podcast. It was a monster, but it was a slow growing monster. And he was responsible for a big portion of that. So why not get paid? Why not sit out? Kind of like the old WCW contracts when the WWE bought the WCW out. And we keep going back to wrestling, but it applies here. Why would you, if you're like a Kevin Nash or a Scott Hall, why would you take pennies on the dollar to come back to something if you can just sit at home and potentially and probably win a lawsuit against Vince McMahon and make a bunch of money doing nothing?
Well, and do you think that there's enough? I mean, and obviously not that, you don't want to shortchange anything that anyone's done, but like, you got to hope that maybe there was enough stepping stones kind of put in place and enough other people there, that even if it wasn't that, the vision all along that it was going to be, that there's enough stuff kind of set up now. I mean, that's at least my hope, is that, especially if they bring back like Jeffrey Pollock and, a lot of the other staff, that there was enough people that were kind of surrounded, with Oliver Luck, that maybe they could kind of keep it going.
But I mean, let's just say you were hired for the XFL, to head up Seattle Dragons video team. Let's just throw the hypothetical out here. And you were hired to do that. And then you got laid off. But then they announced someone bought it again. Wouldn't you be hesitant as a regular person to come back to this thing that already got shut down technically twice and put your career on the line?
Well, I mean, there's two different things we're talking about, right? Are we talking about Oliver Luck, or are we talking about all the staff? Because I mean,
All staff too.
I mean, Luck's got millions in the bank. I mean, Luck can do whatever he wants. If I'm someone, I said last week, if I'm someone that was part of the staff, if I'm part of the Seattle team, I mean, I knew a lot of the ticketing agents and a lot of the office staff there. I'm sorry I'm boring you so much, Paul, for the video version of the podcast.
I've been awake since like 5 a.m. So
I'm teasing. If I'm some of them, I mean, I just don't know. It's just been such a weird time. I mean, how many new jobs have been discovered by all of these people from March until now? I mean, it's just that's sad, right? It's sad, but that's kind of the truth. Is I think a lot of people are just on lockdown right now, and so if I'm someone that was freelancing, a lot of the media guys and girls, and that were running a lot of the events. I mean, I think that if it was Joe Schmo, or if it was someone that didn't have the track record that bought it, then yeah, I mean, I think you would be a little hesitant. But I mean, it's Dwayne Johnson, it's Danny Garcia. I mean, it's all those guys. It's a ton of money behind it. I just think you got to be a little bit more confident in it than if it was other circumstances, I would be a little bit more hesitant. But
I think, and then to that devil's advocate point that you played earlier, maybe the pandemic has helped keep these support staff members unemployed for a reason. Maybe these people, after the pandemic has calmed down considerably, these people can go, well, I don't have any job, or maybe not even if the pandemic has calmed down, they're like, well, I'm not doing anything anyway. So maybe I can go back to this. I can go live in Houston for 13 weeks, cover, the St. Louis Battlehawks in the bubble, and I'm picking up right where I left off and gauge it from there. Like if I'm an employee, I can go, well, this seems like it's going to stay around this time. Maybe I can give years upon years upon years to this. So maybe that's a situation where they didn't have them. No one got jobs because of the pandemic. So they're available to come back and keep this thing moving, the machine moving.
I'll tell you, I mean, and I was talking with my wife, Dorothy, about it. I know you know Dorothy, but for anyone listening, yesterday, and I said, there's a ton of, I'm following all the sites, XFL Newsroom, we got lucky to be put on their page, as one of the podcasts. I mean, there's a ton of excitement right now. I mean, I know that you're working on a lot of stuff. I'm looking at a lot of XFL stuff all the time right now. And I mean, writers and, and I know it's like subcontractor, freelance writers, whatever, but there's a ton of, people that are being brought onto these sites right now, and a ton of content being written. And I mean, this isn't even, like we said, sale goes today, August 21st, and there's already just a ton of energy. I mean, even more so, I think, than back, I remember when they announced the thing, 2 years ago, and to come out, I mean, and I was all in, and I had with her, and it was like, you could go 2 months without Googling, finding anything about the XFL at all. And now it's like every day it just seems like there's a lot more excitement now. And if the point is, if I was one of those office staff, if I was someone that had worked with it, I would definitely think it was worth my while to give, what would it be, 6 more months to this thing? I mean, just to ride it out. I mean,
maybe not even that. Maybe not even that. Maybe we were talking about 3 or 4 months, maybe.
I mean, just to see it go. I mean, I just think it's a no-brainer if you can. I mean, obviously everyone's situation is different. I mean, we're lucky, be working on other stuff and to have money coming in. But I think if you can, I think you got to go for it. I think there's just too much excitement right now. I really do.
I completely agree. And if COVID has prevented these people from getting jobs, and I really honestly, at the end of the day, hope that's not the case. I hope they're able to find work somewhere else, doing something else to help supplant their income that they lost because of this stupid pandemic. But if they, and I'm going to call it a stupid pandemic, I don't care. I'm editorializing, and I really don't care. If they're available to come back and they remember the system, they may remember the way it works, and maybe there were ideas that they had that weren't listened to the first time around, and now they're coming back, and maybe that's an opportunity for them to grow even further in this organization. I think it's a win-win. I said that from the get-go. A small wager of $15 million to have this supplemental football leagues that might end up only being the only real football we get this entire season.
One thing Van did want me to remind us about is that it's 15 million plus making everybody whole. So it's like 23 and change or whatever. That it's covering all those debts on top of it.
What debts, like ticket sales and
yeah, like the which is amazing to me because I got my refund. We were in Seattle. I got those first 2 games refunded. Right with, when Inslee, our governor here, we were really early about getting, all the live events. They were going to do it without fans. They refunded a lot of those tickets. So I've had all my money back, even the money for my, like my jersey. But,
right.
I still see people that haven't gotten their ticket sales back, from season tickets, which I know that they legally haven't been able to do since, now that all the sale and everything's going through. And then just a lot of the coaches and stuff, I think like Zorn was out money. I think Stoops was out money. I mean, I think a lot of the coaches, Texas, a lot of the schools. So there was just a lot of other, so it's that 15 million plus, just a lot. I think it was about 8 and change of debt that was coming in. The other interesting thing before we go that someone posted yesterday I saw online was, what do you think about taking some of those old 1.0 team names? Because they own all of it now, right? So maybe you're talking about expansion teams. Maybe the San Francisco Devils make a run again.
Maybe the Las Vegas Outlaws.
The Las Vegas Outlaws.
Was it the Outlaws?
Yeah, and then there was like the Orlando Rage.
There was the Hitmen. Remember the Hitmen?
The Hitmen.
Yeah, there was the Hitmen too.
So I'm just saying, but that was an interesting thought that I hadn't even put together. Was that I guess supposedly collectively they own kind of that whole umbrella now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. And that kind of leads me to another thought. What if you don't name, if you're putting them in a bubble and if you're relaunching, what if you don't even name them city names? What if you're just like the Battlehawks are playing the Dragons and there's no city names attached to them?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I don't know if people would appreciate that, but I could see that. I mean,
people like you and people like me, like we're Dragons and Wildcats. We would be like, well, I wish they would keep the names of the cities.
I know you bleed red and yellow, man.
I do bleed red and yellow, and I'm still never going to get over that claw logo. That was just terrible. It was horrendous. So, with that being said, wrapping up episode 2 of the XFL Markcast. For Reed Johnson, myself, Paul Sanchez, we want to thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.